Today we're doing Breton whiskey, Breton malts. So if you, dear viewer, think of France, you probably kind of tacitly assume a kind of homogeneity. I mean, you probably think of, you know, very well dressed, slightly snooty people sitting at a Parisian cafe, sipping very small cups of coffee, eating croissants, and debating philosophy and maybe whether they should go on strike later that day. The thing is, there is an enormous amount of diversity in France. Cultural, which, yes, also includes linguistic a lot of the time. And one of the poster childs of that is Brittany, in the northwest of France, by the coast, kind of just west of Normandy, if that gives you some idea. Now, Brittany, I mean, used to be like basically its own kingdom. But the thing to know about it is traditionally Celtic, right? It is the big kind of Celtic outpost on the, European mainland. So despite the fact that they are part of France, if you go and you look up pictures of a Breton festival, you would totally be forgiven for thinking it was taken somewhere in Wales or Ireland, maybe. I mean, it's basically all from that tradition. Anyways, so I really need to make my way over there someday. Anyways, the upshot of this is a few decades ago, some folks over there realized, hey, it would make a lot of sense if we started making whiskey, and particularly malt whiskey. And they've been doing it for a couple of, a while now. There's a bunch of distilleries, and I thought I would taste some for you. So we got an Armorik. I did an Armorik in a previous video. I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty solid. So now we're doing another one. And I've got a Kornog. What is Kornog? Kornog was the second in command of Morgoth's Balrog forces behind Gothmog, and I suppose took over after Gothmog was killed by Ecthelion. None of that is true. I'm making it up. Kornog is it's from Glann. We'll talk more about Kornog in a little bit. Let's start off. Thank you for the laughs from Tolkien fans. Maybe it isn't true. Maybe that's just something Tolkien never got around to writing yet. Okay, so let's start off with the Armorik. This is a 15-year-old. Bottled circa 2022. This is a limited edition of 1,500 bottles, and I bought it because it wasn't super expensive. This was only like 75 euros, and I thought, I mean, this is also a little bit of a cool moment for Breton malts because this is the oldest one they've ever bottled. Like this is the oldest Breton mark, and it's like 75 euros, so it's not stupid expensive for a limited edition, big old celebratory thing. It is ex-bourbon cask and also sherry cask, unchillfiltered, natural color. This is from the Warenghem distillery, and just a kind of a big long history. They started off making kind of grain whiskeys, blended whiskeys, but Armorik came along a little bit later, I think in the late 80s. Anyways, this is kind of the feather in their cap, this bottling. Also, I'm not sure if you can tell, but the glass is like green. It's not like Lefroy green. It's like recycled glass green. I really like this, actually. I think it looks very distinctive and cool. Anyways, let's see what we got. I mean, hell yes. Like this just smells like, it smells like a really well-made malt whiskey is what it smells like. banana bread is the first note I get. So sort of banana bread with lots of like little nuts and stuff inside and on top, like walnuts in particular. Yeah, a lot of fruit, a lot of just straightforward, delicious malty notes, vanilla, baked apples, pears. Cinnamon, but it's almost more like a cinnamon fruitcake or something. So it's cinnamon kind of wrapped around prunes, raisins, dates. A little bit of other baking spices in there, like nutmeg, clove, orange peel, like a candied orange peel. There's also just a little teeny tiny hint of peat in there, just to kind of give. This is not a. I wouldn't even call this a medium peated whiskey. It's just there to give it a little bit of color. Darjeeling tea. There's some kind of fun sherry cask stuff going on. Some beef bouillon. Actually, a lot of walnuts on this. So like just really like fun toasted walnut notes. Earl Grey tea, Swisher sweets, and yeah, that kind of behind everything, just giving a little bit of color. And there's this kind of twiggy, almost Highland Park style peat. Yeah, this is killer. And what I love about this is it feels like they're not cheating at all. Like it's a lot of 15-year-old Scotch, for example. It feels like they've done re-racking, finishing, even when it's not stated really. This is like, it just feels like they had a good spirit in pretty solid casks for 15 years. That's what I'm smelling. It's like 1,500 bottles. Like you're talking maybe what, at most 5 or 6 casks for something bottled at 46%. So this is a legitimate small batch. Like this is, and again, 75 euros or so. So like 80 to 85 bucks. And it's 15. All right, on the palate. Righteous. I mean, yeah, that is a gorgeous balance of elements. If I was nitpicking this, could I have a little bit more complexity? Yeah, maybe, but it's a wonderful balance of like the fresh kind of fruity barley notes. They're using like local French barley. Like that's awesome. Good casks, again, bourbon and sherry, and that little bit of peat in there. Like this is, to me, this comes across as more scotchy than most of the 15-year-old scotches I've had in recent memory, with a couple of exceptions. But yeah, this is legit. All right, we'll try this one more time. Let me get some exact notes. Again, it's very like rustic cake stuff, like fruit cake. Not really banana bread this time. It's more fruit cake, spice cake, clove, cinnamon, prunes, raisins, allspice. And just a lot of just like delicious, straight up graininess. You can tell this came from like grains. It's really nice. That kind of toasted nut thing. It's not just walnuts this time. It's more like mixed toasted nuts. There's some almonds in there. A touch of macadamia, maybe vanilla, and I wasn't really getting maritime notes on the nose. Hold on, let me check again. Yeah, not really. But on the palate, there's some maritime character here. There's a little touch of like, just a little tinge of salt water in there, along with that kind of twiggy, campfirey Highland Park peat thing. Or really, I mean, if you like, you can, like, you've got a little bit of that same character in Lecheg and Talisker. It's just a touch, though. It's just thrown in there for color. Slightly floral. It's not actual flowers. It's more like bergamot again. Just straight, not Earl Grey this time. It's more straight up bergamot. Orange. Bouillon cubes again. And a kind of resiny note. Like, so I remember last year in December, we had to drive the Christmas tree in to set it up in the back of the living room over there. And I had like Christmas tree resin on my hands. And that's kind of what I'm getting on the palate here as well. Yeah, this is good. This is legit. It's kind of... this is really a lot of what I look for in a good 15-year-old malt whiskey. There's a lot of cask influence here, but the distillate is shining through. This is really good. Get that a squirt of water, and we shall come back to it. But first, Kornog. Sorry about the joke earlier. All right. First of all, look at the color on this. This is very, like, especially in the glass, this is super duper light, which I love. So Kornog, what is Kornog? Kornog is from the Glann Armorik distillery, kind of about, 20 miles east of Armorik or so. This is owned by the Celtic whiskey company, so they're not shy of their heritage. There is... I don't think it's Gaelic written on the bottle. I think it's actually like the Breton language. They have their own language. Anyways, this is Kornog Roch'Hir. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And basically, this is the peated version. So Glann Armorik makes it. The standard Glann Armorik is unpeated. This is their heavily peated version. And I hear you saying over there, so what? There's a ton of malt distilleries out there, like half of them have done heavily peated versions at some point. You're going to have to come up with something a little bit more exciting than that, Scott. Okay, how about this? They still use old school worm tub condensers. You know, the condensers which aren't so good at pulling out the heavier, especially the sulfury flavor compounds, and leave in those kind of savory, meaty notes. And you say, oh, that's kind of cool. There's not a whole lot of distilleries that are peated that still do that. You got Talisker, Edredauer maybe. Got anything else? Why, yes, I do. They still use direct fired stills. And it's not just the wash still, as you get in, say, Springbank, so Long Row. It's both stills that are direct fired. And also, they are sourcing local barley, and they have long fermentation times. Yeah, like you sort of go down the list of this, and it just sounds like this should be like one of the grungiest, most characterful distillates coming out anywhere in malt whiskey. I mean, but we got to try it. So this is a non-age stated bottling, not super duper cheap. It's still somewhere in the 65 euros or so. I can't remember exactly. But you know, we'll give it a shot. Let's see what we got. I mean, so first of all, it's super young and raw. But yeah, it works, and there's just a ton of character here. Oh yeah. So yeah, okay. There's peat, and there's a lot of peat. But what's killer about this is everything else that's going on. Bitter orange peel, and I don't think that's coming from the cask. I think it's actually coming from the distillate. Um, there's a nuttiness here, but it's not like roasted. It's almost like green nuts, like unroasted almonds or something. Guacamole? I am getting guacamole notes on this. Apple. Yeah, there's still some like fruity maltiness. Apple, quince jelly, and a lot of flowers. Just a huge, big old boatload of flowers, and a hell of a lot of like maritime peat. This isn't like the twiggy peat I was getting on the Armorik. This is a much more, yeah, it's much more of an Isla kind of character of peat. The closest point of reference I can think of would be like Bowmore, but it's really got its own character. There's an ashiness to this too, but it's not like a campfirey thing. Or it's as you get in, Highland Park or Talisker, say, it's more of, or even, it's not really a coal smoke thing either, like you can sometimes get in Lagavulin. It's more like burned flowers or something like that. Like it's a little stemmy, and there's some lemon and actually some pineapple on this too. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it really smells like a peated Riesling or something. And I'm completely on board with that. I'm a huge Riesling fan. Hell yeah. I mean, it's young, it's raw, but it's tremendous. You can tell it's tremendously well made. All right, let's see what happens on the palate. We got two bangers in a row here. Yeah, it's young. But I mean, the spirit just carries this. Like the oak is just kind of there to be oaky. Maybe to round this thing off a little bit, but I'm still tasting the finish. So it's a very, 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 very long finish for whiskey this young. Main note, like this time I am getting a little campfire, like a lot of just seaside campfire ash. Yeah, flowers, orange peel, and that kind of subtle, like green nuttiness, the green almond thing. Black pepper. Even like this is gonna sound weird, but like a modern gin, like aromatic new school gin, like Shores number 6 comes to mind. So not juniper gin. This is more aromatic gin, in the best way. There's a little bit of mustard seed on this. We're not up at like Lecheg levels of mustard, but it's there. Pineapple, a little bit of pineapple, and a lot of maritime peat. And like and a kind of graininess too. It's like imagine you made yourself a really nice bowl of oatmeal, and you put some like sliced apples in there, and then you took a blowtorch and you just kind of toast the whole thing. That's kind of what this tastes like. I mean, it's got really good mouth presence. Like the mouth feels very good, mouth length is very good, and the finish again just hangs and hangs and hangs. It's not a lot of what's hanging in there is the peaty notes and the kind of ashiness, but like the flowers are hanging in there too. Like there's other elements in the flavor profile that are hanging on. It's not just the peat, and that's really kind of impressive for something that is not very old. I would be very surprised if this was older than maybe 6 or 7, and I think it could be younger than that. Terrific. All right then. So, okay. Even before I give these things scores, I'm going to say right here, like if you are a fan of barley-based whiskey, whether that be Scotch, Ireland, Japan, American single malts, come on over. You need to try these. The level of quality on both of these whiskeys is very, very high, and at the same time, they don't really... They're doing their own thing. Like, they have their own personalities. They're not just copying some of their style out there, and I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm pumped. This is great. Okay, let's try these one more time. Give them a final score. All right, back to the Armorik. Hopefully the Kornog won't have thrown off my palate too much. All right, on the nose. Armorik 15, now with water. Well, now, okay, now I'm getting pineapple in this. Like really kind of nutty, almost pineapple nut cake, if that exists. A lot more apple. Just a lot fruitier, really. So, like, if you could imagine making apple and pineapple nut bread, that's kind of what I'm smelling now. Super duper nice. All right, on the palate. Are you kidding me? Okay, so this did not have problems with mouthfeel and length and finish before, but now that I've added water, those things have actually gotten even better. This is really good. This is high level stuff. Okay, so the big improvement, the big change is in terms of the presence in the mouth, those kinds of structural elements, but in terms of notes, also a little bit like there's a little bit more of a coffee thing, like an espresso kind of character to this. That's most of what's going on, but I'm just drinking this stuff at this point. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much nailing what I want from a 15-year-old malt whiskey. Are there better 15-year-old malt whiskeys at this kind of price point than this? There are maybe a few I can think of from Scotland, like the Ben Romack. It's giving up 3% to this guy, but it's just maybe a hair bit more complex. Springbank 15, maybe. It depends on which batch of Springbank 15 you're getting, and you have to find it in the first place. Yeah, but yeah, it could probably take this. I wouldn't bet against the Springbank. There are a few bottles that can probably fight it out with this one pretty convincingly, but that's kind of it. Like, and that kind of company is very, very good company to be in. I'm going to give this 88 plus. I think this is a fabulous whiskey. And yeah, if you like those kinds of characters I just named, this is, I mean, you never mistake this for Ben Romack, or especially not Springbank. It's a little bit too barley forward and kind of desserty, but it's doing a similar kind of like subtle complexity thing. I really like this. 88 plus. Well worth a grab. And moving back to the Kornog. All right, here we go. On the nose, now with some water. I mean, not really much change. But I mean, it's young, right? It's not going to develop a whole lot from your initial impressions. It smells like a glorious raw eau de vie of peaty Riesling. That's what I'm getting. Okay, I had no problems with that on the palate. So with water, it brings out a little bit of black pepper, but overall it actually gets a little bit cleaner on the palate with water. It reminds me in some ways of like old school Ardbeg. I mean, if you're an old bastard like me and you had a chance to try some of the Ardbeg batches from like the early 90s, basically back when there was just a team that would come in every so often to keep the place running. This is kind of reminiscent of that. It's way more floral than that, but it's sort of tiptoeing in the same genre a little bit. I mean, it's the only problem with this is the youth. Yeah, throw this in a second fill bourbon barrel for 10-12 years and it will take over the world. This is really good. The quality is absolutely staggering. If you are, and but it doesn't feel like Islay. Like I know I just compared it to Ardbeg, but it's like the floral elements there's stuff going on in here which make me think this is just not an Islay whiskey. So let me take a step back. Put it to you like this: if you are the kind of person who is spending a lot of money buying every single limited edition Madeira cask thing coming out of Lefroy, those things, not necessarily because you expect enormous amounts of awesomeness out of them, but just because you want something a little bit different, you absolutely need to try to hunt this down. You need to try this, not because it's better than the sort of old established classics. Ardbeg 10, Lefroy cask strength, go down the line, Laggy 8 and 16, Port Charlotte 10. Is it better than those? No, it isn't. It's a little bit more raw, but it's right up there and it's different. It's its own thing. So yeah, like absolutely. I'm going to give this, I can't make 88. I'm going to give this an 87 points. 87 points out of 100 for the Kornog. What is this? Roch'Hir. Their standard non-age dated bottling. And yeah, Breton whiskey is a thing. Like if these are not on your radar, put them on your radar. Armorik 15, 88 plus, very very good. The non-age dated Kornog here, also very very good, 87 points. I would love to try an older version of this. Thanks for watching, and cheers.